Vinette, Shalom. Facebook. I should have got my iPad. That's what I should have got it to start getting. Tikva, Shalom, Grand Rising. Okay. Josiah is waving to y'all this morning. Josiah, is Elijah in there? I don't even know if he came back in. Set apart living, Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Is Elijah in this room? Go tell them to turn it down, please. Hey, you. You go to the bathroom? No. Don't start messing with stuff. Stop it. Leave it alone. All right, beautiful people. Happy Tuesday, Elijah. Shalom, shalom. All right, beautiful people. 7. All right, y'all. Hold on. Make sure this volume is all the way up over here. All right, y'all. Happy Tuesday. It is August the 2nd, 2022, day 175 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 377. You know what? I've been saying the book of the Law and the Prophets for so long. It's just a part of my thing, you know? So I feel like I might need to change it, right? Because when you say the book of the Law and the Prophets, I started saying it when I was specifically talking about the Bible, the Torah. But we'll see. Let me think about it. Let me think about it. Right. All right, y'all. So today, first of all, Father, thank you for another day. We on post. We ready to get started. We will definitely be finishing the book of Wars against Jehovah today, because it has 55 chapters. Yeah, so we're about to start on chapter 50, or chapter L, on page 377. All right, y'all. When the temple was completed and the king and his 4 high priests entered into the holy chamber, the false Osiris, through his servant god, Egypt, came in Sargis and spake unto the king, saying, Here I am, O king. Thothma said, My labor is well recompensed, that thou hast come to me. O Lord my God, I am blessed. Osiris said, Keep holy my chambers, suffer no man, nor woman, nor child that dwelleth on the face of the earth to know the mysteries of these, my holies, save and accept my adepts. So remember, yesterday they were shown how to create the pyramid, and the pyramid was you can just say like a meeting place where they could hear the gods talking to them and literally give them information. Adri Shalom, keep peace. Here layeth the key of everlasting life. Verse 3, page 377. Thothma said, How sayest thou the key of everlasting life? Osiris said, Herein is that which is of good and evil, as I commanded thy forefathers, to eat whereof man shall become as gods and live forever. For this is the triumph of man over death, even for which I created him on the earth. Thothma said, shall only we five know these things? Osiris said, nay, verily, else the light of my kingdom would not be full. Behold, behold thou how I built the temple. Was it not in the keeping of adepts? So then, as I have given unto thee to know my kingdom, thou shalt give unto others, not suffering these lights to come, save through my commandments. Make sure you get that up. Verse 5. Now in the second month after the temple was completed, Thothma the king, having put the affairs of his kingdom in order, went into the holy chamber and thence ascended into the chamber of life and death, leaving the four chief priests in the holy chamber. And Thothma cast himself in death or dormancy. Remember yesterday we learned that they could go into this state where they would seem like they're dead, but they're not. They're pretty much just astral projecting, if you want to put it that way. Or they knew how to purposely have out of body experiences. Hold on, I did say that. Okay, you weren't down here, and the sister forgot. Hold on 1 second. Here, open it up, put it in here. Huh. I thought that was yours right there. No, that was Jeremiah. Go ahead, get your song. But yeah, so that's what it is. Cast himself into death. So they weren't dead. They just went into a dormant state where they could, they could spiritually travel. And Thothma cast himself in death, dormancy, by swallowing his tongue. And after swallowing his tongue, there's reference letter AB. Page 387. AB says, obviously, no one could literally swallow their tongue, since it is a muscular organ firmly attached to the base of the jaw. This is simply a figure of speech used to describe the ability to relax the tongue muscular in such a way. Oh, Siri, I'm sorry. Thank you. Hold on. Siri be eavesdropping. I don't even be saying her name, but maybe I sound like I'm calling her. Anita, greetings. Obviously, no one could literally swallow their tongue, since it is a muscular organ firmly attached to the base of the jaw. This is simply a figure of speech used to describe the ability to relax the tongue musculature in such a way that it is allowed to drop backward over the nanosopharyngeal region and thus partially block the passageway to the lungs and stomach. Perhaps the intention, okay, Jim, put that in there for it, please, and turn it on. Perhaps the intention was to help protect those vulnerable organs while the subject remained in a trance state for an extended period of time. This act could not function as the actual mechanism needed to induce the trance itself. Rather, it was just a part of the technique devised to support the process. This method is still used today by certain esoteric schools of thought. Listen, I have, in all of my research, there is, what is it called? It's over here on my Harry Potter bookshelf. I have this book, right? Well, actually, it's like a 4-series book. So I just pulled out volume 1. This book by Matthias Fleury. Right here, in here, it is and I ain't telling y'all to go get this. I'm just showing y'all something. When it said this, I'm like, yo, they talk about this a little bit in this book on how you can put yourself in certain positions. He kind of goes deep into like the different yoga positions and stuff. And he actually shows you, they actually did some research on the actual the actual energies that flow through your body when you're in certain positions, which is why the front of the books, I'm gonna show you. Hold on. Okay. Well, I call it my Harry Potter bookshelf because it's a leaning bookshelf. So all my my phone books are on this one, right? Okay, so the dude's name is Matthias Flory, right? So he goes through, okay, so detailed descriptions of ancient practices that expedite the process of enlightenment in the 21st century. Now, I haven't gotten all the way through it. Now, I'll share it with you just in case you want to look into it. So, but you will notice here, right? Can you see how his body is positioned? He's sitting on the floor, but he's laying forward with his hands behind his back. So, within all of these positions, they were hooked up to like medical devices actually monitoring the energy of the body, right? And so with different positions of the body, first they began to monitor how like the energy flowed and how you breathe, the different methods of breathing, how you can induce trance just by breathing certain ways.
What's the size of that?
38 to 40. Oh, medium.
Oh, okay.
All right. Is Jonathan out there?
No, he's not.
Call and check and see where he at.
Usually comes at 7:30.
It's 7:28. But he did a long study, and these books are the results of his study, telling you what happened with the different positions, and it goes into the chakras as well with the different breathing exercises you do. How the different, if you was to look at it under a what you call the machines where you can, it's like an infrared type thing where they can actually monitor the heat in your body, and they notice that different areas in the body begin to let's just say not light up like we see the lights based on people. They trying to point to different chakras, so they show you a different light, but there really are lights if you want to say it that way, because that portion of the body, more energy, it will begin to like spiral, and it will become like full, and it will literally rise up the body. Now, before even getting into this, there are certain breathings, certain ways that I'll breathe that I begin to notice that my body will heat up, and it's like an energy or a heat will just begin to rise from my feet all the way up. And it'll relax you, and it'll begin to, as I first of all I got scared, so I stopped. I'm like, wait a minute, because I don't know where I'm gonna go, whether my spirit just gonna take off and I ain't gonna be able to call it back. So I was like, okay, this stuff is real. I'm like, Father, but it's just breathing. How can it be wrong? So I'm still working through the scariness of being spooked out from the church, being indoctrinated at the church. But a lot of these things that I was experiencing just by my normal life, just doing things, by me having those things happen and asking different people, okay, have you ever had such and such happen to you? Girl, no, what are you talking about? So I started looking, researching, hey, what does it mean when your feet heat up when you're breathing? And so that's how I started coming across some of this stuff and really getting into the yoga, and it's talking about how you move the energy through your body, right? But not only that, I want to show y'all this because I thought it was real good. And I'm still, like I said, I'm still going through it, but also it was something I was watching Selah Shalom video yesterday, the last one that he did, where he started talking about what did he say? He was talking about sun gazing, right? As soon as he started talking about it, I'm like, yo, I done read a little bit about that, and a couple different people I've actually talked to, they was like, yeah, but I'm still just like, okay, I'm gonna just ease into it because I need to understand what's happening, just in case my spirit take off. I need to learn how to call it back, right? So that's what kind of keeps me moving at a little bit slower pace, making sure I'm understanding everything, right? But I said all that to say the same author that went through and did this study with the medical devices, actually monitoring the energy and how it flows through your body. And the book, it shows you, it's very colorful, and it shows you different positions and how it lights up, what happens or what normally happens to the body.
Mommy.
Yes, babe. Isn't that one already open? What normally, oh, it is, it's open. You meant just open the top. Be careful. The pages, they're all of them alike. They feel like laminated, but through all of the books, he goes through all of this, the different positions, naming them, how you should correctly sit, just the different things, so you can you can just make sure you're doing it right. It's really just telling you how the energy flows through the body, and it was verified scientifically or medically by being hooked up to the machines. And so they did colored pictures to show you what was happening, right? I was like, yo, this is amazing, right? Okay, so Selah Shalom started talking about sun gazing yesterday. But what happened was this book right here, which is also by the same gentleman, Matthias Fleury. I'll share them with y'all so y'all can look into it. I'm not sure how many left. But this right here, he started actually talking about some of the same things, which is why I was triggered to go back to his book yesterday when Selah Shalom was talking. Yeah, I put the links. I got them all from Amazon too. But I got through most of this book, right? And so it talks about that, and he gets into detail on what happens or what began to happen to him when he began to do a little bit of sun gazing and just adding a breathing to it, not being all spooky, just really just practicing it, making it a part of his everyday life. But what began to happen was he began to okay, let me just, I wonder if I should read the back of this to you. He began to go into explaining, hold on, I'm trying to find that chart. What begins to happen, he said, it's almost like your brain is rewired by doing this. Okay, here you go, got it in the back, right? And so the title of this book is called Sudden Understanding, the Power of Multi-Directional Reading, right? And so he learned how to do exercises in reading in spirals, just like with the science of the body and stuff. And so he explains it and he goes through it, and you begin to read it and it begins to wake up parts of the brain. I'm like, holy crap. I was like, at first I was like, okay, I don't know what this, let me just, hold on, let me slow down, because wait a minute, what? So as I began to read and your eyes are moving, how can I explain this? Like your body is like, I'm not saying your body is a machine, but in a way, your body is I'm trying to put it in my own words. It's kind of like a machine, or you know how, anybody ever play video games, right? And you got like the different codes, up, down, side, left, right, stuff like that. Okay. So the body, when you move your eyes and your brain, you can actually reset different things. And you can just you can almost kind of like, I ain't gonna say reset yourself, but it allows certain parts of the brain to be awakened, right? And so that's what this book goes into. And he talks about how he began to understand this by sun gazing. I'm like, what? And I thought it was a bunch of crap until I started doing some of the exercises in the book. I'm like, yo, there is something to this. Because things tend to get a little clearer. And because, let me tell y'all, I be spooking myself out sometime, because like I said, I don't know if my spirit just gonna take off, and I don't want it to take off and do something that I don't understand how to do yet, and I'm not able to call my spirit back, right? So look, I was joking with my sister one day. I told her, I was like, look, so I be letting her in on some of the stuff I be trying. I'm like, look, okay, so just in case, I don't want nobody to think like I'm in a coma or something, just in case I get this meditation down and I don't know how to bring myself back real quick. I need you to just, like, if James called you freaking out or something, I need you to think about this stuff. Come find out what I was doing. Just make sure I ain't stuck and can't get back. Okay, but I'm gonna share these with y'all so you can see. But I thought it was really good. Like I said, I was still going through it, because I like to be really careful, and I'm checking through medically on different things, and I'll test things here and there, just kind of, because sometimes it's a lot of information to take in, especially when you like testing it by yourself, and I just don't want to, I just want to make sure I can keep control of everything while I'm learning, because the process of growth spiritually, it's like it takes on a whole new meaning. But even going through like Oahspe and everything, because even some of the stuff that I learned there by flipping through some of the different portions, I'm like, yo, this is real. This stuff is real, So set apart, live in shalom. Dana, Legacy Impact Coaching. You can rewire the brain. Check out Dr. Caroline Leaf. Okay, I'm gonna check her out. How you been, sis? Yeah, so that's probably I'm definitely gonna check her out because that's a lot of what the sudden what is it sudden awakening, sudden understanding was going. Yeah, sudden understanding, the power of multi-dimensional reading. So it's a lot of from what I understand. I ain't gonna say a lot, but there are a few different ways to wake up the brain to like pretty much bring it online to do things what people would literally might think you're a god, but we just really don't understand how to operate our bodies for real. Selah shalom, peace. Okay, y'all. So let me go back and read verse 5 again. We're on page 377. Tabitha, Keon Cooper, shalom, shalom. She's a scientist. Oh, I'm definitely gonna look her up. All right.
Hey, so
Okay, hey, turn that, Bella, you gotta turn that down. It's too loud. Okay, y'all. So just in case you came in, we was talking about mentioned something that Selah Shalom was talking about yesterday, sun gazing. And when he said it, I remembered the books that I had when I was looking into it and the information that they got. Also, it's not just that one. Remember the book that I said we was going to read? Remember how we was reading like the first 30 minutes, we was like reading the Torah, then we was reading like I call it the extracurricular books, right? We started reading the other stuff. So now we're just using a whole hour to read Oahspe. I figured the more we got through it, because I said before that after we finished the what was the last book? I was saying after we finished the book of Spencer Armige, we was going to go back half in the time, reading like half Oahspe and half the other books. But a couple of the books I pushed off based on what I understood now, and I'm like, maybe that needs to be adjusted because before, the way I understood certain things, I thought it was a good book for the lineup. But now I'm not thinking so much because I think it might actually like take us backward instead of ahead based on the new information like we're like understanding spiritually that Oahspe is bringing out. So I moved a couple of them out of the way. And also because I was just thinking about it, I want to be fair in what I was doing. We spent the first literally like 3 years reading nothing but Torah the whole time. And I think Oahspe deserves the same amount of time spent to it simply because of the truths in it that can be proven even more so than what I see the Bible is, right? So, because I know a couple people asked me when we're going to get to that next book you talked about. We'll get to it. A couple of them I have removed from the lineup. I'll post a list again, the book list of what we did read up until today. But I say that because there was another book where they were.
what child?
This one, the one I said when I started reading about the pyramid in here, I'm like, yo, this book right here, I was telling you about the 9 eyes of light. And it says from Egypt, but in here it also talks a lot about, it gives a lot of, I put this in a lineup because it was, although it says the 9 eyes of light of Egypt, the Ascension Keys of Egypt, it's really a scientific book. And it is really breaking down the body on a spiritual level, which I think we might still go to this. We might add that back in and maybe like do that maybe like for 10 minutes. I'm not sure yet, but as I go through this, I need to just double check it because it really, like I said, it's more like science and proven. Like my big toe he was a scientist giving you the actual scientific proof of what was happening and what the bodies can do. The 9 eyes of light is kind of like that. Well, not kind of, it is like that. So I think it's still a safe read, even though it says like 9 ascension keys from Egypt. They say that because in Egypt, they understood a lot of these things, right? But I just want to make sure I'm not getting mixed up. And I want to make sure it's not information coming from a false God's kingdom. So which is why some people might think I'm taking so long to get back to it, but I definitely want to be sure that I'm not, all right, love you too, son. that I'm not peddling information from a kingdom that we're tearing down, right? Okay. Miss Amazing Wonders, Grand Rising, Shebrew. Hey, sis, all praises to the creator, Robin Salama. Okay, Trina, hey, girl, hey. Lavon, peace and blessings. Alicia, yeah, I saw you. I actually answered you. Bonita, shalom, shalom, sis. Okay, back to it. Page 377 in the Oahspe, Book of Wars Against Jehovah, verse 5. Now, in the second month after the temple was completed, Thothma the king, having put the affairs of his kingdom in order, went into the holy chamber and thence ascended into the chamber of life and death, leaving the four chief priests in the holy chamber. And Thothma cast himself in death, dormancy, by swallowing his tongue. Remember, we just read that footnote, and swallowing the tongue was actually just a figure of speech. Whereupon the priests closed the entrance and sealed the king within. Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, said unto the priests, one alone shall remain in quarter watch. Oh, my Wi-Fi messing up. Uh-oh. Ooh. Hold on, Facebook. Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me just check something. Yep. All right. Facebook, if it freezes, what's messing up? Hop over to YouTube. Just go to the video from yesterday and click on the link in the description and just hop over to the page or whatever, or just go right to it if you know where it's at. Or somebody post it. Post the link to today's video in YouTube for me. Thank you. Okay. Verse 6. Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, said unto the priests, one alone shall remain, in quarter watch shall ye dwell within the holy chamber, and I will remain also. Just put it up. And the priests cast lots and divided the watch in 6 hours each unto every day. And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thothma and took him to Ahoagden, Osiris's heavenly place, showing unto the spirit the glory of the throne, saying, behold, the God of gods. So they were able to go into the pyramid or the ascension chamber, go into the meditative state or achieve the state of dormancy, and then their spirit, they were able to astral project or have an out of body experience, and through this they were able to see Osiris's heavenly kingdom, which is kind of shielded to the physical eye, but spiritually, if you have eyes to see, if you're allowed to, you can actually see the spiritual realm and the activity in the different kingdoms that are, that are present for the current region that you're in. And whatever region, because there you can move just like that, and you can travel just like that, rather, in the spiritual realm, right? And Osiris sent Baal to the spirit of Thothma and took him to Ahoagden, Osiris's heavenly place, showing unto the spirit the glory of the throne, saying, behold, the God of gods. Thothma said, it is a great glory. Lo, mine eyes are blinded by the light of the Lord my God. After this, Baal took the soul of Thothma into 1,000 heavenly places in Osiris's kingdom and showed him the glory thereof. Thothma said unto Baal, thou angel of God, thou hast shown me of a truth, God is in the image of man, nor is there any but one God who ruleth over all. Baal said, how sayest thou then, who is God? Thothma said, how sayest thou? For behold, his glory was so great, I could not look upon him. Then answered Baal, saying, only angels and mortals, these are the sum of all things. He thou hast looked upon was even as thou art, a one-time mortal on a far-off star world. He attained unto the Godhead to create a world unto himself, even as thou, who art an adept, canst create flowers and plants and serpents. Thus he came into the void regions of space and created the earth and her heavens, and they belong unto him, for they are his. And in like manner is every star world created and ruled by a God like unto thy God, who is Lord of all. Thothma said, Oh, that all people knew these things. Oh, that I may remember them when I am returned to earth. Baal said, more than this, thou shalt remember, for I will now take thee to the hells of the idolaters and of the Jehovians. Baal then took the soul of Thothma to the hells of Deus and showed him the horrors thereof. But he took him not to the regions of God in Creoshavy. Now when Thothma had traveled in heaven for 30 days, Baal brought his spirit back to the chamber of death and showed him how to regain his corporal part, the which he did. So ain't nowhere in the world, unless you are truly being guided by somebody who was already in the S world or the spirit world, after that long, be able to attach back to your body and your body not have been worn down. I mentioned it yesterday that somebody in a long state like that, if they're not in the proper conditions, their body is going to deteriorate. Just think about what happens to people who are in comas for long periods of time, right? They done lost all this weight, they ain't moved around or nothing. But this was one of the beauties of the ascension chamber within the pyramid, that the body was held at a certain state that it didn't deteriorate no matter how long you were gone traveling away from it. Jen, Grand Rising, Jamia, Shalom. Auntie, Belinda Brown, Shalom, Shalom. All right, page 378, verse 11. I'll read it again. Now when Thothma had traveled in heaven for 30 days, Baal brought his spirit back to the chamber of death and showed him how to regain his corporal part, the which he did. And then Baal signaled unto Egypt, and the latter spake to the priest on watch, saying, Behold, Thothma hath returned. Go thou and fetch thy brother and deliver him into the holy chamber. And when they came, they unloosed the ceiling of stones and delivered the king into the holy chamber. And he was awake from his trance and remembered all he had seen in heaven when he related to the high priests who were with him. And both Baal and Egypt came in Sargus and talked in the holy chamber with Thothma and the priests. For one day, the king remained in the holy chamber, that his spirit be reconciled to the flesh. And on the next day, he and the priest came forth out of the temple and sealed the door thereof and placed the king's guard in charge, that no man or woman might molest the place. Now Thothma had been in the death trance 40 days. 3 angels, Egypt, Baal, and Ashtaroth, came into the altar in the king's palace that night and showed themselves to the college students who had attained adept. Baal spake orally before them, directing his words to the king, saying, Behold, I am the angel of God, thy Lord, whom thou hast beholden in heaven. I am the same who traveled in heaven with thee. What I speak, I say in the name of the Lord our God, whose servant I am. On the morrow shall thy high priest draw lots, and one of them shall enter the chamber of holies in the Osirian temple, and do even as thou hast. And after him, behold, another of the high priests shall do likewise, and so on until the four had, and so on until the four have had thy experience. And it came to pass that the 4 priests in turn cast themselves in death and visited Osiris's heavenly kingdom, and also many of the hells of Deus, being led in the spirit by Baal or Ashtaroth, Egypt being the guardian god of the temple. When they had thus accumulated the same knowledge of heaven and earth, the 5 of them were. What did you? Well, if you were sitting there, she wouldn't have got to it. Whose phone is this? Whose phone is that? Can we get that thing out of here? Verse 14. No, I read 14. I read 15. When they had thus accumulated the same knowledge of heaven and earth, the 5 of them were of one mind as to attaining. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. I had fruit in this. You know, you let it sit too long, gnats start coming. I'm sorry. When they had thus accumulated the same knowledge of heaven and earth, the 5 of them were of one mind as to attain life everlasting in the corporal body. Osiris said, behold, I will bring many back who are already dead, and they shall call, guys, hush. Behold, I will bring many back who are already dead, and they shall call unto their embalmed bodies and wake them up and inhabit them. Go ye then to the root of the matter and prepare my people, for I will come in person and inhabit the temple ye have built, and my heavenly kingdom shall descend even to the earth. Prepare ye the column of the stars. You know what this made me think about? Have y'all read the book Black Root Science? Right? I talked about it some months back. Right? Uncle Nathaniel. Shalom. Francis Peters. Love, power, and wisdom. Shalom, brother. In that book, it talks about it's the person who wrote it is giving their experience, and they got wisdom from their ancestors or whatever on how things used to be back in the day, right? And how efficient everything used to be when people were more in charge of their senses, and they were kind of just doing some of these things which we would call supernatural now. Like ESP was like a normal thing. They were able to communicate with their minds. They were able to create vehicles from their solar plexus and travel. They knew how to Sargus. They didn't use Sargus in that book, but they knew how to make themselves invisible, right? But it goes through explaining on how you can so develop yourself in a way to pretty much awaken your spirit and begin doing those things. And it talk about the different levels of school that they go through in order to achieve certain things. And then at the end of everything, there's a huge graduation for the entire class, right? I'm just like, but it not like a small class, literally like the entire generation of people, right? But in that book, it taught, I forget which section it's in, because the one I have is broken up into, well, I think it's two anyway. There may be one that has everything, but the one I have is broken up, volume 1 and volume 2. And it even goes into the detail of the diet of what you should eat. And they were 100% plant-based. They didn't consume any kind of flesh or animal byproducts or anything, you know, which helps to achieve that state, the natural state where we should be, right? But it was talking about in there where that there were some in a pyramid, and I might be screwing this up a little bit because I read it last year. That there's a pyramid where there are bodies that have been preserved for a time of, what you want to call it. I don't think they use reincarnation, but right here when it says, Osiris said, behold, I will bring many back who are already dead, and they shall call unto their embalmed bodies and wake them up and inhabit them. What it was pretty much saying was that there are bodies that are preserved for such a time as this, and they're going to come back and inhabit them. Now, I'm not sure that at this point, from what I understand, I'm not sure that is true on how the creator created things to be. I'm thinking even that is a teaching, or it comes from one of the kingdoms of one of these false gods, you know. But so that's why I said, with all that I'm learning going through here, some of the books that were in my lineup, I'm really rethinking, because some of the information that it has, maybe not all of it, it seems like it's coming from a place that is not from our creator. And I just don't want to, we trying to break away from all of that. So anything that smell like it came from the false god's kingdom, I don't want to touch it, right? Okay. So, but I'm glad the Oahspe just kind of opens your eye, not kind of, really opens your eyes to a lot of this stuff, right? Set apart living, yes, Christianity did a real disservice to us, right? They never even went into even some of the smallest points that the Oahspe brings out, that when you bring it out, it's like, duh, that's obvious. Why couldn't even we see that? Like, why does somebody have to even tell us this, right? Okay, I'll read verse 15 again, page 378. When they had thus accumulated the same knowledge of heaven and earth, the 5 of them were of one mind as to attaining life everlasting in the corporal body. Osiris said, behold, I will bring many back who are already dead, and they shall call unto their embalmed bodies and wake them up and inhabit them. Go ye then to the root of the matter and prepare my people, for I will come in person and inhabit the temple ye have built, and my heavenly kingdom shall descend even to the earth. Prepare ye the column of the stars. Thothma built a column to the east line of the slat, 7 lengths, and the height was 36 lengths of wood and stone. Built he it with an opening from the bottom to the top, and the width of the opening was 6 lengths. And the walls thereof was a winding stairway, and there were windows looking out to the east and west and north and south, that the stars from every quarter might be observed. On the summit of the column were dwelling places for the seers and mathematicians, with places for the measuring instruments and lenses. When this was completed, Thothma built wood and stone. I'm sorry. When this was completed, Thothma built of wood and stone an external wall across the slat of the temple, and within this wall were stairs also, and these led to the top of the pyramid. This wall was also provided with windows that the northern stars might be observed. Facebook's still going in and out. I'm sorry, y'all. If it's messing up too bad, hop over to YouTube. I'm sorry. Verse 18. Thothma made an observing column for the sun, and it was provided with lenses of all color, so that adepts standing at the base of the pyramid could see the sun at every hour of the day and distinguish the spots and their changes. Selah Shalom, the video yesterday, he showed some of that stuff, but he was showing like the moon. But it's really interesting when you do get out there and you observe the path of the sun, moon, and stars. It gets really, really interesting, right? Get you a good telescope. Get out there during the night. If you can handle it during the day, you might have to do early day till your eyes get adjusted to the brightness of the sun. But it's amazing. Actually going out there observing what you can see with your eyes and looking at some of the sites that have it posted for you. Some of them are good, but there are sometimes some charts, especially if you're observing like the moon yourself and how she moves, you begin to notice that some of the people that you may follow that's doing those charts, they are off. Because what they do, by math, they just kind of figure things. And that's what got us in trouble. I think it was the last year. Remember, we was counting the moon days and everything, and we were looking for the new moon. And this particular time, I just decided, they chart's been right so far. We're gonna go with that. But I decided to go out there, and we got the Sabbath wrong. And I think everybody, and it made me wonder if everybody, and I know everybody don't, but when we went to call it out, we looked at it, we realized that the moon hadn't shone, right? And we was going to call for the Sabbath day. I'm sorry, not the Sabbath day, the new moon, and she hadn't shown herself yet, because the moon has, when it's changing to new moons or a new month, sometime the transition days where the moon, where she's completely void of her light, that can it can be like the shorter month, or with the longer month. Well, let me say it this way: the days that the moon are dark will change from month to month. Sometimes she's dark like 2 days, sometimes like 3, so you have to, that's why you have to, if you're studying it, you have to actually observe it yourself and understand it yourself before you really start relying on other people's charts, because they may get it wrong. And if they get it wrong, or if they miss something because they decided not to observe a particular night or 2 nights, and you're following behind them, your account and all that stuff is going to get off as well. So that's how we kind of got off. It was like, oops. And I was like, this is why you got to observe every night yourself, because we was going off another chart, somebody else's chart, and they got it wrong. And we was looking, okay, so where is it at? But so it's good to do your own due diligence. It's good to have people that you can work with who are also diligent, but you have to hold each other accountable, making sure that nobody messed up, because we're all imperfect, we're still all learning, right? So that's when I realized I need to keep paying attention myself, right? Don't miss no parts of class. Okay. Verse 17. When this was completed, Thothma built of wood and stone an external wall across the slat of the temple, and within this wall were stairs also, and these led to the top of the pyramid. This wall was also provided with windows that the northern stars might be observed. Thothma made an observation column for the sun, and it was provided with lenses of all colors so that adepts standing at the base of the pyramid could see the sun at every hour of the day and distinguish the spots and their changes. And Gal was set within each of the angles of observation that the relative position of the sun with northern stars could be determined every day. By these two columns, therefore, Thothma and his mathematicians measured the sun and moon and stars as to the distances and sizes thereof. And Osiris commanded the king to send into the far off lands of the earth his wisest mathematicians to observe the winds of heaven and the drought upon the earth and the abundance of the yield of the earth in different regions, in different years and seasons, and to observe famines and pestilences and all manner of occurrences on the face of the earth. He said unto the king, when thy mathematicians are turned to thee with their accumulated wisdom, thou or thy successor shall examine the sun and the stars and moon as compared to the things whereof the mathematicians shall relate. 1 year with another, and 3 years with another, and 3 years with another 3 years, and 5 with 5, and 7 with 7, and so on for hundreds of years and thousands of years. And when thou hast taken in the term of 3,300 years, and compared the sun and moon and stars, as relate to the occurrences of the earth, thou shalt have the key of prophecy for 3,300 years ahead. Let me highlight this. I'm gonna have to find me some different color highlighters because these ones I got now, I want to be able to distinguish like like the different things I'm looking for with different colors. Like as I'm studying vortexia, I need all different color highlighters from the ones I currently have and using here. So when I'm flipping, I know, okay, this is about vortexia here, because I be out there in the elements studying, trying to look for stuff, right? Look how it's fun. It's really fun. And when thou hast taken in the term of 3,300 years, and compared the sun and moon and stars as relate to the occurrences of the earth, thou shalt have the key of prophecy for 3,300 years ahead. And thou shalt say of this land and of that land, and of this people and that people, how it would be with them, and thou shalt not err. Thothma, the king, called together his mathematicians, and according to their grade, chose from amongst them 1,200. These he divided into groups of 100 each, and he gave them a sufficient number of attendants, and he sent them to war all the sides of the world, allotting to them 16 years each for observation, according to the commandments. And they took with them all kinds of instruments to measure with, besides scribes to make the records of such matters as came before them. And they went throughout Arabia and Vidu and Japheth and Parsi and Hellas and Europa, even across the western sea and to the south extreme of Arabia, and they have in brackets Africa, and to the great kingdoms in the interior, and to the north of Hellas and Parsi and Japheth, to the regions of everlasting snow. And in 16 and 17 years they returned, some who have died on the journeys. I'm sorry. And in 16 and 17 years they returned, save some who died on the journeys. And most wonderful was the knowledge these mathematicians gained. In some countries they found philosophers who had the knowledge required even at their tongue's end. Thothma received them in great pomp and glory, and awarded all of them with great riches. And Thothma had these things written, and Thothma had these things rewritten and condensed into books, and named them books of great learning, and they were deposited within the south chamber of the pyramid, where never harm could come to them. And Thothma made it a law that other mathematicians should travel over the same regions for 16 years and make like observations, and after them, yet other mathematicians to succeed them, and so on for 3,300 years. I'm wondering if the book of Thoth and the emerald tablets. Now, I didn't order a couple. I even got over here on my Harry Potter bookcase. The emerald tablets. I just ain't got into it yet. It might be on my other bookcase. I just started unpacking all my books. I got to get another bookcase. But yeah, I haven't gotten into it yet, but I'm interested as to what is in that. Shayla, hey girl, hey. Tabitha, I just saw your last comment. They be promising them the world that they don't even have to give, right? Verse 24. And Thothma had these things rewritten and condensed into books, and named them books of great learning, and they were deposited within the south chamber of the pyramid, where never harm could come to them. And Thothma made it a law that other mathematicians should travel over the same regions for other 16 years and make light observations, and after them, yet other mathematicians to succeed them, and so on for 3,300 years. And accordingly, a new expedition started forth. Now, during the absence of the first mathematicians, Thothma and his philosophers observed the sun and moon and stars every day, and a record was made thereof as to their places and movements, and as to the earth in the regions of Thothma's home kingdom. And these observations were reduced to tablets and maps, and a record made of them in Parsian language, which was the language of the learned. For the Egyptian language of that day was spoken mostly by the unlearned and was mixed with the Phoenician, a language of sounds. After the mathematicians returned, Thothma and his philosophers examined the whole matter as compared with the maps and tablets of the heavens, and the facts deduced therefrom were written in a separate book and called the Philosophies of God and his son Thothma, king of the earth. Copies of this book were made and sent into the lands of Arabia, Vidu, Japheth, and Parsi, and Hellas and Europa to the priests of God, but the original book was filed in the holy chamber in the temple of Osiris. Thothma applied himself to impart wisdom unto all men, and during his reign he built the land of Egypt, and during his reign he built in the land of Egypt 77 colleges of great learning, 12 colleges of prophecy, 200 houses of philosophy, 7 adepteries, and 3,000 free schools, and 4,000 houses of sacrifice unto Osiris, Savior of all men. And after Savior of all, it has reference number 20, and it has at the bottom Savior of all men, and all is in brackets in the footnote. Verse 29. Verse 29, page 379. 340 obelisks to God, 30 triumphal arches to Deus, 4,000 Owens New Owen to the Creator, and these were mounted on pedestals of polished stone and stood at the street corners. And there were graduated of the rank of adept during Thothma's reign more than 4,000 men and 300 women, all capable of the death trance and of going about in spirit. And of these, over 700 were permitted within 30 years to test the cast of the holy chambers in the pyramid, and their spirits were conducted into Osiris's heavenly regions and sojourned there for many days and returned back to their bodies unharmed. Because of the position of the chambers, there was no action upon their bodies whilst in the swoon. Thus did Thothma prove himself to be one of the wisest and greatest men that ever dwelt on the face of the earth. He believed all things the gods told him, believed he was thought reincarnated, and believed he would never die as to the flesh. The false Osiris, through his servant god, Egypt, had said to Thothma, "This is the manner of heaven and earth, as regardeth man. All men are reincarnated over and over until perfected to immortal flesh. And in that day man has so protected, and in that day that man has so perfected his adeptism, he can remain on earth or ascend to heaven even when he desireth. Hence, of all knowledge, adeptism is the greatest," which we know that is a lie, right? Just make sure everybody's staying on board, just in case you zoned out. We don't reincarnate. That comes from the false kingdom, right? That was created by them. We supposed to go up and out, my G. Just like going through school. Ain't nobody trying to go back to kindergarten. Verse 33. Thothma asked if there were any new creations. Satan prompted Osiris, who said, "Nay, thy spirit is old as the earth. At first it was small and round like a grain of mustard, only it was spirit. And the multitude of these seed comprise the all unseen. When one of them taketh root in gestation, then is the beginning. And it is born into the world a frog, or an ass, or worm, or lion, or small creeping thing, that it live its time and dieth. And the spirit hieth it back again into another womb, and it is born forth a man, low as to knowledge, evil as to life. And he liveth a time and dieth again. But again the spirit hieth back to another womb, and it is born forth again another man, but wiser as to knowledge, and less evil as to life. And this continueth to hundreds of generations and to thousands. But he who hath attained adeptship hath it in his power to call forth out of the earth his own corporality. He needeth no longer to go through the filth of others." Still keeping in line that this is a lie, right? Everybody staying on track? Okay. Thothma was wise even in his belief, for when he was growing old and beholding his flesh sunken, and his eyes growing hollow and dim, and his hands getting withered, he inquired of the gods, saying, "I know thou hast taught me truth, O God. I am weak before thee as to judgment, and curious in my vanity." Osiris said, "Speak thou, O king." Thothma said, "By all the force of my will and by my great learning, I cannot stay the withering of the flesh. If therefore I already dry up like a mummy above the power of my will, how will it be with me when I am further emancipated?" Satan prompted Osiris to answer the king, and so he said, "Until thou art even more emancipated, thou canst not understand the power of thine own soul." Oh, what a way to keep you wondering to the day you close your eyes in this flesh and realize you can't come back. We're just gonna just keep on pushing them till we get to the end. I do, babe. We're gonna try them. I'm so excited. Verse 37, page 380. With this, the king was reconciled, and even at the time he was tottering on his last legs, he began to build a new palace, saying, "After I have changed this flesh into immortal flesh, hither will I come and dwell forever, and I shall be surrounded by adepts, wise and faultless. And this shall be the first colony of the kind I will build on the earth. But afterward I will build many colonies of like kind, more and more of them, until I have all the earth redeemed to immortal flesh. For of such shall be my kingdom, and all men and all women on the earth shall own me, Lord of all. Nevertheless, With all Thalthamer's wisdom and the wisdom of his gods, he fell on a stone and died suddenly on the day he was 100 years old. You would think, with all this superpower you got, that you would be able to foresee you tripping and falling over a stone, my G, breaking your neck and dying. Yeah, truth will find you out sooner or later. Chapter 51, page 380. When Thalthamer was quite dead, the spirits carried his body into the temple. What bad?
I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. What I do? I finally got all the books out of
You
the.
got your books out and put them on these bookcases.
You know what? I cannot lie. I probably put about 6 books on the bookcase. I paid our sons to.
Oh, I'll tell you, man.
I paid them to unload. I'm like, why I got so many cases of books? I had to have Jeremiah unstack them. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, these things had Jeremiah, you need to unstack all of these. I said, Sire, you get this bookcase. Josh, you get this bookcase. I said, I got 3 tubs of books upstairs in my closet. Bring those down. Zay, put them fun books. Put them on the Harry Potter bookcase.
Oh, I
yeah.
look upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So them 3 that I had up there, they're loaded on that. Oh, thanks, babe.
So you got all your books is all?
I do have some more up in the room, like in a couple crates.
Still in the closet?
No, they not in the closet. When you walk before you go into the bathroom, them 2 crates sitting right there. You probably because I threw something over so you couldn't see the books. I got books everywhere. Look, don't you throw my books away. Don't touch my books, babe.
We didn't been without 2 months without you doing anything.
Because I also have them on my Kindle. So when I don't have
them away, you got them on your Kindle.
No, because I need to be able to touch the pages sometimes.
Man, listen, you don't read this stuff, man.
I do.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Hey,
I can tell you about what's in all the books. The whole top shelf.
I don't want to hear it. I'm just saying you can throw it away.
No, I'm not.
Okay, man.
Then what would be the point of getting all these bookcases?
For newer books that you haven't read yet.
I'm gonna get newer books. I'm gonna get newer books.
Don't worry about it. I'm throwing away. You ain't gonna know.
Yes, I will. And I'm gonna just repurchase them. Don't throw my books away. Look, I got books everywhere. It's my favorite thing to do in the world, read. Okay. Chapter 51, or chapter LI, page 380. When Thalthamer was quite dead, the priest carried.
Oh, now you want to play? Oh. Any other time you don't want to play?
When Thalthamer was quite dead, the priest carried his body into the temple, fully believing his spirit would return from heaven and transform the body from corruptible into incorruptible flesh and live forever. And they laid the corpse in the place previously designated by the gods and sealed it up according to the commands of the false Osiris, savior of men. Osiris had said, whoso believeth in me, him will I save unto everlasting life. And though he lose his body, yet again shall he find it, and the corruptible flesh shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye. God darn it, they done got us again. That wasn't Jesus that said that. When they put it in the New Testament. Yo, bruh, this, oh boy. The New Testament, they should just be called the Book of Osiris through and through. What page? Page 380. Listen, everybody that came out of Christianity, we are very familiar with these words right here. Look, verse 2. Osiris had said, Isaiah, turn it down, please. Osiris had said, whoso believeth in me, him will I save unto everlasting life. And though he lose his body, yet again shall he find it, and the corruptible flesh shall be changed in the twinkling of an eye, and become incorruptible unto everlasting life, with the spirit that abideth therein. On the 5th day, the priest opened the chamber, for according to the laws of miracles, on that day the spirit should accomplish the feat But lo and behold, it came not, and the body still lay cold and dead. But the gods came in Sargus and said unto the priests, seal ye up the body for 5 other days. And the priests did as commanded. And after that, they examined it again, but life had not returned. Again, they were commanded to seal it up for 5 other days, which they did, but life returned not. Hauka, who was now the high priest, inquired of Osiris concerning the matter. And Osiris, through his servant god Egypt, answered him, saying, go fetch a young man who was warm in the blood, which is life in the flesh, and he shall be the 7th son of an adept, and know how to cast himself in death. I'm like, first of all, you just ignored my question. Why these ain't rose up yet? And you want me to go get another sucker? The priest brought Zan, who was in his 24th year, and when he came into the holy chamber, he was bid cast himself in death for benefit of the king's soul. And Zan thus cast himself, and he was sealed in the chamber of death for 5 days, along with the king's corpse. And in 5 days, the priest brought both bodies into the holy chamber according to instruction. And Osiris came and commanded them to stand around about their bodies. And when they had done so, the angels from Osiris's kingdom came and spirited away the body of the king, and they brought back the spirit of Zan to inhabit the body of Zan and put it in possession thereof, making believe it was the spirit of Thothma returned. They to put this man into the sunken place. Hauka said to the gods, where is the body of Thothma? Hath it been transformed? And the gods answered, it hath gone to heaven and will return after many days. But I'm like, okay, take me where the body laid at. Let me see this with my own eyes. I won't believe unless I can see and touch or not touch said body. Boy, I tell you, how far does the insanity go when you have been deceived? Hauka said to the gods, where is the body of Thothma? Hath it been transformed? And the gods answered, it hath gone to heaven and will return after many days. But as to the spirit of the king, behold, he is with thee. And the priest spoke to Zan, believing it was Thothma. And after 3 days they came forth out of the temple and recrowned Zan, Thothma the second, and they proclaimed it abroad that these things were true. Howbeit, they knew the contrary. As to the spirit of Thothma, at the time of death, it was taken to Aghoaden and put amongst the servants of Osiris' heavenly kingdom, and thus enslaved. Got him. You spend all your time in life teaching people, and you yourself got enslaved by your dumb doctrine. Oh, boy. Listen, I'm laughing, but I really want to cry because I'm glad I've been woken up before I got to this place. I'm like, sis, that could have been you. Sis, that could have been you. Look, verse 7. As to the spirit of Thothma, at the time of death, it was taken to Aghoaden and put oh, I can finish my video. This is why we got to figure out a good time. Say la shalom, right? Because see how it gets crazy here at 7 o'clock, at the 7 o'clock hour. The rest of the day is nonstop, noise nonstop, right? When I had to do business, I literally have to go shut myself away. I'm thinking about hiring a nanny to keep them shut while I work on paperwork. We might have to do it like 6 a.m. while everybody still asleep. No, I'm still thinking about the time. I'm thinking more so one of the Sabbath days that I take off at the same time, you know, if you're going to be up. Yeah, they got straight pimp. All right, listen. Verse 7 on page 380. As to the spirit of Thothma at the time of death, it was taken to Aghoaden and put amongst the servants of Osiris's heavenly kingdom, and thus enslaved. So Zan became king of Egypt. Now, as regarded the false gods, Osiris and his confederates, they never tried to reincarnate the spirit of Thothma, but because of the virtues, yes, baby. Can y'all have pancakes? Sure, y'all gonna have to wait a few minutes, okay? I'm gonna need you to change them. Come here. Back up, y'all. You know how to tie this tight? I'm gonna need you to practice. Or you need to go find some that don't fall off your body. All right. Okay. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay. Verse 8, I read again. Page 380. Now, as regarded the false gods, Osiris and his confederates, they never tried to reincarnate the spirit of Thothma, but because of the virtues and the wisdom of Thothma, they used him for benefit of Osiris's heavenly kingdom and to establish Osiris everlastingly on the earth as the all highest God. Man, we already at an hour. I guess we won't finish this today, y'all. We'll finish it tomorrow. Oh, so we're gonna end after we're going to end because we're at an hour and 11 minutes. We're going to end after we finish chapter 51, which is 13 verses. Verse 8, I'll read again. Now, as regarded the false gods, Osiris and his confederates, they never tried to reincarnate the spirit of Thothma, but because of the virtues and the wisdom of Thothma, they used him for benefit of Osiris's heavenly kingdom and to establish Osiris everlastingly on the earth as the all highest God. As to the kingdoms of the land of Egypt, which succeeded Thothma, the inhabitants of the earth already know the chief part. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the Egyptians were the most learned people in the world, and especially in the knowledge of the stars and the sun and the moon, and in adeptism and miracles. Even down to the children. I remember reading this portion in Legends of the Jews, where they give you a whole deeper story of what happened when the plagues of Egypt were happening when they first came. I thought it was quite hilarious, some of the conversations that went back and forth between Moses and Pharaoh. And he said, listen, he said, we don't need to come out here and do no miracles. He said, our children can do better miracles than these. Like, our children are very well learned in adeptship. Like, they're almost past adeptship, right? So we ain't gonna come out against you. We just gonna send the babies like 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. He said, look at the wisdom of our babies, right? It was funny, but it's interesting though. As to the kingdoms of the land of Egypt, which succeeded Thothma, the inhabitants of the earth already know the chief part. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the Egyptians were the most learned people in the world, and especially in the knowledge of the stars and the sun and moon, and in adeptism and miracles. But woe came unto them. The land became flooded with hundreds of millions of Druhas. And as to the people of Egypt, the chief desire was to be able to return in spirit after death and dwell with mortals. And the things which followed are not even lawful to mention. Suffice it, these spirits lost all sight of any higher heavens than to dwell on the earth. They knew no other. And they watched about when children were born and obsessed them, driving hence the natural spirit and growing up in a new body of the newborn, calling themselves reincarnated. These Druhas professed that when they previously lived on the earth, they were great kings or queens or philosophers. Y'all, I know I done mentioned this a couple times, but this is happening. I know somebody right now, like when I was talking to them last week, they told me that the person that the body that they was inhabiting, they said they died years ago. They said they don't even live here anymore, that they reincarnated in this person's body, right? And I'm like, And so from that point, I had to be careful what I said to this person, not because I was scared, but because I realized how true what I'm reading in Oahspe is. And I'm not quite sure, like, because what comes to mind immediately right now is like laying on the hands and casting out. But what I learned in Christianity, right, you don't necessarily want to set somebody free that don't want to be freed, because it may make them, they may be in a worse state than what they were before they were inhabited, right? So I'm kind of like going through steps, and I'm trying to talk to the real person that I know is still there, that they told me they died. Matter of fact, they told me exactly when they died. I'm like, you wouldn't be able to use their, I'm thinking, so I didn't say this out loud. You wouldn't be able to use their body if they were completely dead, right? Do you happen to remember where specifically you read the conversation between uh, Pharaoh and Moses? Yeah, if you look in Legends of the Jews, it's in this, it's in the section Moses. I think it's volume 2. Hold, matter of fact, it's right here. Hold on. I ain't gonna just kill my whole jank, y'all. Hold on. No, it's on my other bookcase. Yeah, it's on my other bookcase through the house. But I think it's the second volume with Moses, because the first volume consists of like all the Torah and all the stories that we didn't hear about, like Abraham, how he went into the fiery furnace, about his brother, his father, all that stuff is the first volume. Second, looking at second volume, where it's mostly about Moses going through Egypt, what happened after they got out of Egypt. I want to say all the way up until after Elijah. I want to say up until after Elijah or Elisha. Check volume 2, Legends of the Jews, and you will see that whole thing. Matter of fact, I'll share it, because somebody read the whole thing without, all these stories. They just like read it straight through. It's a clear reading. I'll post it. Let me see. So you can get it. I'll post it for everybody, just in case y'all want to see it. I'll post the YouTube. Well, I give you both the link so you can read it online, and the YouTube video where they're actually reading it. Because when they read it, I like the one. Um, it's like a dramatized version where you can it's almost like it was made in a studio, so you hear background sound effects and all that stuff. I thought it was pretty good. What was I saying? Oh, with this person, I'm thinking I have to be careful in how I interact with them, because this person really believes that they are another person reincarnated. But I'm like, no, you really just usurp that person's spirit. And I call it, since I've seen Get Out, I call it the sunken place. But I know that person is still there. But I can tell the switch. So that's why I'm like, this is a real thing. Okay. Let me read 9 again. As to the kingdoms of the land of Egypt, which succeeded Thothma, the inhabitants of the earth already know the chief part. For hundreds and hundreds of years, the Egyptians were the most learned people in the world, and especially in the knowledge of the stars and the sun and moon, and in adeptism and miracles. But woe came unto them. The land became flooded with hundreds of millions of Druhas. And as to the people of Egypt, the chief desire was to be able to return in spirit after death and dwell with mortals. And the things which followed are not even lawful to mention. Suffice it, these spirits lost all sight of any higher heavens than to dwell on the earth. They knew no other. And they watched about when children were born and obsessed them, driving hence the natural spirit and growing up in the new body of the newborn, calling themselves reincarnated. And these Druhas professed that when they previously lived on the earth, they were great kings or queens or philosophers. And they taught, as their master Osiris the False did, that there was no higher heaven than here on the earth, and that man must be reincarnated over and over until the flesh becomes immortal. Not all of these spirits drove hence the natural spirit, but many merely engrafted themselves on the same body. While such persons lived, these spirits lived with them and dwelt with them day and night, not knowing more than their mortal companion. And when such person died, behold, the Jehovah went and engrafted itself on another child and lived and dwelt with it in the same way, and thus continuing generation after generation. And because of these indulgences, many of the spirits came in Sargus in the families of the Egyptians, eating and drinking with them corporally, yea, and even doing things whereof no man may speak, where dire disease seized upon the flesh of mortals, and their blood and flesh became inhabited with vermin. The people became idlers and vagrants. The lands were not tilled, and the places of learning became deserted ruins. That, my beautiful people, is where we end today. I will call you afterwards, and you might have figured it out. I figured it out. I didn't figure out what we need to do, but being real careful, but I will call you. Okay. All right, y'all. So that is it for today. Thank y'all for hanging out. Let me put my page number here. And I really don't want to stop, but I have to today. 381. So we'll finish this. I was hoping we was gonna get to finish it today, but it's good. I really don't want this to end, but so we'll finish it tomorrow. All right, y'all. And then after we finish here, we start in the book of Leka. All right, y'all. So with that being said, it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is August the 2nd. It is also my sister's birthday, Alicia. Yeah, happy birthday, girl. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Okay. It is August the 2nd, 2022, day 175 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1193. We read pages 377 to page 381 in the book of Wars Against Jehovah, which is found in Oahspe. And we're reading from this version that I call Big Blue. Somebody asked me for the link for this yesterday. Well, actually, day before yesterday now. And I went because I know sometimes they get sold out. But it seems that they are sold out again with this particular one. And they said they're not, at least on Amazon. And they say they weren't sure when they were getting more in. So there are a couple other versions like the paperback, and I think it's split in 2 volumes. I don't have that one, but I think I might order it anyway. But I think it is the older edition, but I don't know. But I might get it. You can still use it. It's just I think it's the older version where this one has the updates and the footnotes or whatever. So, but it's still good information. If you can't get this one, which is I believe the most recent version, get the one that's paperback and come in 2 volumes, right? Get the information somehow. But there is a difference. I noticed the 2 volumes, each volume, volume 1 and volume 2, is $30 each. So you pay $60, to whereas this one is $30 altogether. It's all in 1 volume, you know. So I think I will get it. I haven't compared. I think it's all the same information. This one just have the updates and is in a bigger version. I don't know. So, but check it if you don't have it. If you can't get it, they have the online version, which is free. And I always leave the link in the description box for Facebook and YouTube. So, yeah, that's that. All right, beautiful people. That is it for today. May truth be your life. And may the Creator continue to help you rise as we're here on the earth. So when we leave here, when we actually transition, we don't get stuck here, right? All right, so that being said, beautiful people, that's it for today. I will see y'all back here tomorrow, bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Alicia, I'm about to call you right now. Bye, y'all.